Welcome to The People I Play With. This is the show where I interview, well, the people I play with. I'm your host, Jesse Bernico. Today's guest is Bre Seale. Welcome back to the show, Bre.
Hello.
So the last time Bre was on, we talked about The Quick, which I ran as part of a Halloween event at work. And I did that again this year. And so this time we're discussing Cthulhu Dark. Maybe you'll become a Halloween regular on this show, Bre.
That'd be great.
This scenario, the player characters were a family of farmers affected by the American Dust Bowl in the 1930s. They had packed up and were heading west to California when they received an invitation to visit a relative who claims to have created a flourishing farm in the middle of the Arizona desert. Now, you played Annie, which is the oldest daughter of the family, and she was also engaged to the family's most loyal farmhand, Will. Since these were characters provided by the scenario and not ones of your own invention, I'm curious as to what your initial connection or angle on Annie was.
I think from what I remember, the initial little slip said something like, your parents are happy that you're getting married to Will, but you're more interested in pursuing life and learning new things. So I took that to the extreme. And the other thing was, she'd injured her leg really bad at one point in her life. So I took that as, okay, she had an opportunity to get educated in a way she wouldn't have been able to normally because she was bedbound for a significant portion of her life. She got big dreams and big ideas about trying to live life in a slightly different way. Her driving motivation I took as trying to find an alternative way out.
It's funny because I'd obviously had read those character descriptions before, but I hadn't really internalized them. It's always interesting when something sort of comes out of a character in play, and I'm like, is the player just doing that, or is there something on the description? So when this family reached the farm, it was indeed flourishing, but the relative who invited you there, his name was Uncle Jack, was nowhere to be found. And Annie had a very unusual experience when she touched some mining equipment that she found in the barn. She had this sort of vision of a very colorful explosion, possibly cave-in. In response to this, you then had her smash up a lot of the fruit and vegetables growing on the farm so she could paint this vision on the side of the building, much to the rest of the family's shock and horror. And this is very early on in the game. What prompted that?
So I think the first thing that comes to mind is the idea of this person who has wanted something more for so long and has wanted a way out and has had a very normal life, seeing something that is so extreme and out there and an otherworldly experience essentially, and how that would feel like a door opening for them. I have to pursue this because this is what I've been waiting for. So I imagine going into the idea of, she's this farmhand. She probably has a lot of desires of things that she likes to do, like painting, and that she probably had an opportunity to do when she was injured and recovering, but she hasn't been able to return to because there's just not time for that on a farm. So the idea of, this is the beginning of something new, and I want to really connect with whatever this is because it's going to be a way out.
It's interesting because it was just vision. Like, I hadn't gotten into any of the other stuff about this creature touching on all those once. So it's interesting that just from that you found, your perception of Annie was that she would find this as like a thing to pursue.
I think part of it was my sheet talked about how much I love the stories of Uncle Jack. So I think it was something about seeing this insanely flourishing farm out in the middle of nowhere, run by presumably a single guy. She was like, this could be an opportunity. If I learn or I figure out what's going on here, I could just run my own farm. I don't have to be a part of any other structure. So even beyond like the supernatural stuff, she was already seeing opportunity in that space. I don't have to be a housewife. This could be a venture or something.
Well, that's interesting because much later in the game, when everyone had gone to this abandoned mining town nearby, Annie had discovered that the townfolk had made these rock formations also in an effort to represent these colorful visions they were having. And this was a total coincidence between a spontaneous thing you had done earlier and something pre written into the scenario. So I'm curious, when that element came out, how did that impact your play of Annie?
It was fun, but it feels like a very like human reaction to have like experience something maybe you can't understand and to want to like share it, whether that be like physically in art or through writing. It was something that felt natural or created like a kinship with the people in town because they obviously experienced something similar to Annie. This is what you do when you're presented with something like this. You try to internalize it and work through it in whatever ways are like available to you. There is a community here. There's some kind of understanding here.
I'm going to now link this to something I know about you in real life, which is that you are a physical artist. You make things. Was there an element of this desire to externalize your experiences?
I think so. Especially with these one shots, I try to find some kind of core drive to the character and then just fill in with whatever I have on hand experience wise. So, yeah, to me, that's what people do when presented with things like that. Might just be something that I do and I think is normal. I have a new experience and it gets funneled into some kind of a creation.
I thought Annie was interesting because I do notice that in a lot of other games, you tend to play very androgynous characters or you tie a lot into the uncanny. And Annie is just a farm girl from Oklahoma. That's why I asked you, what was your touch point with Annie, who is outside of the other types of characters that you tend to play?
Probably the part where you were able to see that connection and why I don't normally play characters like them is it's a little too close to home or a little too close to past experiences. I've been that person and I don't want to be that person anymore. When I play, I tend to be this is what I want to be or an aspect of something I want to be. It was funny because I think that day, because there were so many of us, I was like, oh, I'll let everyone else choose a character and then I'll just pick one up. And there was like two that I was like, oh, I really don't want to be these characters. And it was the mom or Annie. And then I got Annie and I was like, okay, we're doing it. We'll figure it out. There's some things where it's like tapping into experience. I'm an eldest daughter. So there are things that you give up or you dodge or you try to find a way around. And there are reactions from the people around you when you do that that are hard to measure and account for. That is like a juggling game that isn't always fun to like return to the headspace of. So it was especially kind of funny. You had everyone roll after that for the for sanity, I think.
In Cthulhu Dark, it's called an insight check. Unlike Call of Cthulhu, where your sanity is going down, in Cthulhu Dark, your insight is going up. I definitely felt like, okay, the rest of you all wake up in the morning, and your eldest daughter has just painted a surrealist, otherworldly mural on the side of this house that you are a guest in. That is an insight check worthy experience. And that's actually one of the things I like about Cthulhu Dark. Cthulhu Dark is very much how does the horror stir the social pot of the player characters, and the fact that you leaned into that very hard after one weird experience. But that's what I enjoy about playing with you. I am still trying to find the words where it's because it's not a performative thing. It's not about pleasing an audience. It's not about doing the best story thing. It's this authentic commitment to whatever it is that is going on here, and you do that. A lot of the characters kind of feel like they're doing a bit, but you don't feel like you're doing a bit. Where where does that connection occur, and how does it manifest?
I don't know. I respect it a lot from people I played with, the ability to do like the bits to embody a character so quickly. It feels like when I'm playing a lot of the times I'm discovering things as I'm playing. I don't have a really firm idea of what I'm doing or where I'm going in the moment except for like a general guideline. Maybe that.
Maybe it's just the fact you were seeking and finding and connecting to the now of the character as you understand it, the situation as it's unfolding, and maybe just playing, very, very instinctually.
Hmm. Instinctually is something that makes sense. Yeah. That feels like that could be it.
Well, people could benefit from playing a little more instinctually. Eventually, this all led to the family being down in the old gold mine that was attached to this town. And if I'm remembering this correctly, Annie's father, as played by a different player, was really determined to keep his wife and his two daughters safe, and it was turning into this family argument. And Annie really, really wanted to keep going to the point that her father had to first physically restrain her and then at another point passed her off to the wife and the other daughter to forcibly drag her down in the mine. At this point, with all the warnings, with all the badness, with everything that seemed to go on, why was Annie so still driven in your mind to go down that mine shaft?
What ended up being very fun that didn't come out a lot in play is to me when she realized that Edom was a liar or a trickster, she was still like, "That's fine. This is a power." Kind of like the whole man's hubris kind of deal. This thing itself isn't going to help me, but if I can understand it, maybe I can use it. Which is also why she sometimes did weird things like, "I want to eat the the wall. This thing isn't going to give me what I want. It's just another one of the world's tricks, but maybe if I can use it, take advantage of it, then I can still get what I was looking for."
Oh, you were going down there hoping some kind of devil's bargain.
Yeah, I got my mom to eat the wall because I thought there was some connection between having eaten the food earlier and eating the wall. But I was like, okay, so there was this prison that was broken. That was this vision that I had. For some reason, I got in my head that I want Annie to try eating a piece of that and seeing if consuming a part of this creature would give her something. There was not much thought beyond that except she knew that she didn't trust this creature and she wouldn't take literal deals with it, but she had hoped that there was some way you smoke bees out of a hive and then you get the honey to do the equivalent to this like weird Cthulhu creature.
Is that more of a freedom seeking thing you see in a character or a power seeking thing you see in a character?
I think it's a freedom seeking thing. I play a lot of characters with the expectation that they'll fail and at least hope that when they fail it'll be interesting. So it was like, this is what Annie's going to try to do, and it's going to go terribly. But this is someone who feels trapped, trying to just wildly swing for a way out.
You make Annie sound like she's a caged animal.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the feeling socially at least. This is the path that she is supposed to follow and she has no interest in that. But at the same time, this is her family. She doesn't feel she can just break away from them and lose all tradition. So it's the not being able to either be exactly what they want or completely throw everything away. And so living in this uncomfortable in between that's not satisfying anyone really.
Well, and some of that theme was certainly enhanced by the fact that the person who was playing Annie's father was leaning into, I am the patriarch of this family, and my wife and daughters will do as I say. And so that tension, I think, was very, very live in the scenario.
Yeah, it was fun and fitting. I think that's the first time I've ever played a game where like I've had another PC try to like physically restrain me. And I've heard like, horror stories, but I was like, no, this is fine and this makes sense. And it feels good for the story. Dad's not gonna be like, yeah, yeah, go on down to the creepy tunnel and with the where two people disappeared. So it was fun.
How did you feel about where Annie ultimately ended up?
I think there was some somber satisfaction to it in the sense of I think she ended up where most women in that time with her desires would have ended up, which is somewhere in the in between, never quite completely happy, like having avoided like the gilded cage of marriage but still not been able to like forge their own life, living in this spinster in between. I think I set her up as this jaded occultist studying person who lives with the her mother and her sister. Yeah, that feels about right.
One of the things the epilogue of the game asks you to do is to ask, like, does your character ever regret not giving themselves over to Edom? And I think your answer was no, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think it was the second that Annie realized that this creature was not purely well intentioned, that it was lying to try and get something. She saw it as just marriage 2.0. This is just another trade that is going to cost me something I don't understand for big promises. So to her, even if she'd been in that room, she wouldn't have taken it because I don't know what you're asking for and you're being sly and slick about it, and that's not safe.
I've been sitting here, mind probing you about all kinds of things. Do you have a question for me about this game we played?
Yeah. What was your favorite part of running it?
That's a question. One of the things that I like about this scenario is it has a very active horror. Edom is effectively a character. Not all Cthulhu Dark scenarios work that way. Edom is an entity with a personality, with an agenda. And so I found it very fun when you rolled sixes to not just give you a glimpse of the horror as it is, but to actually have Edom reach out with very specific things to specific people. With Annie, it was like once you were keyed into the art, anything I show you is going to be enticing. My one character as the GM is I get to play Edom, and that is very enjoyable about this scenario. And depending on who rolled what when, how Edom chose to speak to them or reveal itself to them is just it's a lot of fun to do that.
At one point where Edom was talking to Annie, and Annie was starting to get wise, and I think she asked, "What, do you have puppies down there?" And Edom was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, whatever." Which was a very fun image to have in my head of this, like, woman having a conversation in her head with this entity and being like, "Uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh."
To be a little more fair to Edom, Edom does make good. It creates this fantasy world for you. It projects an unreality where you get to live out your life. You get to have that experience. Or you're being slowly digested as well. It is this interesting question of, is a real life of hardship better than a fantasy life of all your dreams being fulfilled?
Think with that in mind, I think if it was presented to Annie as that straightforward choice, there's a chance she takes it. But the fact that it's obfuscated, I don't believe anything you say now.
What I'm hearing is next time I run this, don't be so cagey with Edom.
Well, yeah, to some extent, it's probably not fair because I think even as Annie, they're probably someone who is just suspicious of things presented to them as like, this is a good thing, don't worry about it. So at first she's very much gung ho because she's like, oh, this is a way out. And then the second she thinks that there's a catch that isn't being shared, she's like, oh, never mind. This is just another one of those life tricks.
A couple of wrap-up questions I have for you. What do you think you did particularly well playing this game?
Sounds like the horror aspects. I think I was able to embody the character a lot more than I maybe normally do, and felt like I was able to go with the flow very well.
Okay. If you played it again or a game like it, what do you think you could improve?
I think trying to play less genre aware, like to not be suspicious or stuff like that.
If you could play a role-playing game about any subject matter or genre or content or time period, what would you want to play?
I think we played Mothership and I played Android, and that was something that I enjoyed a lot. The idea of being an other among people was something that was very fun. So maybe like aliens, an alien trying to blend in, or like an android trying to assimilate, or something like that would be very fun.
Oh, interesting. I have a game that actually just recently came out called Io the Human Machine, where you are a squad of cyborgs doing missions in Russia. So you might be interested in playing the Human Machine. Well, thank you for being one of the people I play with and chatting with me today. And I'm sure this will not be the last time that I have you on, because you're a delight to play with, and you always bring something unexpected to the game.
Thank you for having me. It's always a joy to play.
Thank you for listening to The People I Play With. Please join me in 2 weeks when I interview Eva Wierzbicki about playing the Virgin in Bluebeard's Bride.